Thank you very much to all our guests this afternoon, and welcome to our session on expanding spaces for women peace builders at regional level. Welcome once again. I would like to take this opportunity to acknowledge GMAC for the lead work in organizing this session and to coordinate one of our key partners who has been supporting us to strengthen our regional advocacy work, and to all the participants that are joining us this afternoon for this discussion. We have a number of panelists who will be reflecting on the topic. We have Sally from West Africa. We have Jolly Kamuntu from DRC, Mr. Mbarak Mabuya from IGAD, and Ambassador Catherine Mogaka from the AU. We thank you all for sparing time to join us as we reflect on this key issue. I'm called Juliet Were, and I serve at the Women's International Peace Center as the Deputy Executive Director. And I'll be reflecting and presenting highlights on a study that we did in the lead to celebrations of the 20 years of Resolution 1325. We all know and acknowledge that the Resolution 1325 is a key framework that has enhanced the participation of women in peace and security, and enhancing their participation in protection, in peace building, and the conflict resolution. As we celebrated 20 years of 1325 and 25 years of Beijing Platform for Action, we noted that women played a key role in ensuring that the issues and their contribution to the peace and security agenda is visible, and that they were present in different spaces. However, I also noted that regardless of the increasing participation and recognition, women peace activists were continually being frustrated on the inability of them to have their key issues visible and influential at different levels. And this frustration came as a result of the decrease, the shrinking civic space engagement, and the inability to be there when they need to be there at that right time. So this informed our study on shrinking space for women's rights organizations and the women peace and security agenda. The study was situated in Africa, looking at activists in the Democratic Republic of Congo, Cameroon, Liberia, South Sudan, and also looked at issues happening within Asia and the Middle East. And we interfaced with activists from Yemen and Nepal to be able to give us an analysis of what is happening at the global level. We contextualized the issue of shrinking civic space as a form of pushback or backlash that is motivated by feminist initiatives that question and seek to change the status quo in peace and conflict. And backlash may be understood as unintentional and sustained action by specific actors who are opposed to gender justice, equality, and women's equal rights. And these actions and strategies mostly become visible at critical junctures when the status quo on an issue is in flux or in relation to a challenge mounted by women's rights activists. So that's what we contextualized as shrinking space or backlash to women's civic organizing. This study set out to explore possibilities of women peace builders' access, participation, and influencing in policy-making spaces. And in particular, it drew on qualitative interviews with women peace builders and took stock of existing policy platforms at national, regional, and global levels, and also analyzed institutional cultures that buttress different policymaking platforms, the implications these institutional cultures have for women's access to participation and influence in peace building processes. The study further explored opportunities that exist to rethink and strengthen women access, participation, and influence in policy-making platforms to promote a transformative agenda for peace. We would like to acknowledge the participation of the 17 women peace builders from Africa, Middle East, and Asia that were able to share reflections on this important topic. And to also thank GMAC and CODATE for having been a part of this process and the entire team at the Women's International Peace Center. We did this in a period of 2 months, and these are some of the key issues that emerged in the reflection. 1, the women peace activists acknowledged that there are existing spaces for civic engagement. And these are mainly at a regional and international level, including at the United Nations, the Security Council, other peace departments within the United Nations, and the spaces organized by agencies like UNFPA, Commission on the Status of Women, that give space to women to engage and participate. Other spaces are spaces organized by the women's movements, mainly women's rights and civil society organization networks, as collective space for policy influence in form of sensitization, awareness creation, networking, documentation of grassroots experiences, capacity building of women peace builders, and activism to influence peace actors. So these spaces were acknowledged as key moments and avenues that give women an opportunity to voice their concerns. However, regardless of the fact that the spaces were visible, there were concerns of to what extent are women in these policy spaces? Is their voice heard? Is their participation felt? Yes, the women acknowledge that yes, women are present, though they are fewer in relation to men. And some of the key issues highlighted of presence were, for instance, at the African Union, the Security Council's appointment of the Special Envoy of Women, Peace and Security has enabled the presence and participation of women at that level felt. Women's participation in peace talks and mediation teams has been noted, for instance, within the MAROCnet and their engagement in the peace talks. We have seen the Special Envoy engaging in peace talks in DRC, in Burundi, South Sudan, together with other activists. We've seen women in Liberia, South Sudan, and Yemen engage in peace talks at different levels. But also women rights organizations working with women in leadership, women as ministers, to ensure that gender-related policies like sexual offences bills are presented on the legislative agenda. At the African Union, the presence and participation is also noted in the efforts of the Office of the Special Envoy in the development of the Continental Results Framework to monitor the implementation of the Women, Peace and Security Agenda in Africa. This is an avenue that continues to provide the space for women to participate at different levels. But as well as the launch of the African Women's Leadership Network as a continental movement to elevate the status of women's leadership in Africa. So at the African regional level, those have been some of the key moments that women peace activists recognize as opportunities and platforms that continue to enable them to engage and speak. The other key emerging issues is that the notion of women being invited to speak at different levels. For instance, at the United Nations, women peace activists get opportunities to speak and present at the different, at the Security Council, at the General Assembly. But although the space is provided, the message that they want to present is edited, and in a way removes that they would want to be positioned to the entire world. But it also gives them an opportunity to pass on a message on some of the other issues. But the fact that they are invited to speak means that they have to abide by the regulations of the inviting mechanism and to have their message edited and have fewer issues positioned. But also the complexity of this invitation, it means that women at times are invited to participate, but they cannot speak. And the resulting outcome documents are normally not implemented. So the recommendations pushed forward and provided normally remain on paper, and the situation and the context in which women and girls working worldwide remain the same. The other key emerging issue was that the regional and the national civic spaces are mainly patriarchal in nature. The operations remain patriarchal, and this deters and limits the effective participation of women peace activists. The way that these structures are conceived, they are mainly on a patriarchal framework. And this means that when women come on board, the space for them to speak is limited. The ability for them to input and influence is also limited. Yes, we have noticed that we have some women in the spaces, but their level of organizing and influence becomes limited because the numbers and push of women are also limited in this space. We continue to notice that there are fewer women within the peacekeeping missions, the mediation missions, because traditionally this was a male-dominated space. So it continues being male-dominated at that level. We also continue to notice that the platforms are controlled spaces. So the actors there edit out, condense, and omit the views that are positioned by women. So in the end, it's not really easy to see what the women are positioning. But it's also militarized, within a militarized culture, animated by patriarchy and masculine virtues of aggression, competition, and control. So the space continue to be buttressed and be reserved for the men, even when women have done quite a lot to push to ensure that women's participation in the peacekeeping processes is increased. The key other issue that emerged was these spaces continue to be prohibitive institutional cultures. The cultures there make women secondary in the policymaking platforms. There's the continued use of the language. Women as invited to speak. We see that women teams are hastily assembled and added onto mainstream peace teams, and yet they are not well prepared for the tasks that they are going to engage in, which affects their level of influence. But also the fact that women's views continue to be silenced and trivialized as just issues of survival. They are not issues that are at the high level. They are normally put at the micro level. So we see this as the issues that prohibit the level of engagement and participation of women peace activists in these spaces. Governments and non-state actors also mistrust women's rights organizations as representatives within the international community. There's a lot of sieving, there's a lot of protectionism, which deters the effective engagement of women from the civil society actor within government space, public spaces, within the international spaces. Most times they are deprived of the ability to engage and contribute to these spaces. The other key issue that emerged was still in line of the institutional culture and the patriarchal nature of the context working, is the issue of sexual pacification and its effects on women's participation. Young women, peace builders mainly, were concerned of the continued processes that sexualize women, make them viewed as inferior, and refer to them as sexual symbols and prizes brought forth to motivate the signing of peace agreements. So they will be saying, she looks edible, she's sexy. So the expertise that women are supposed to be bringing to the process is trivialized. And these are challenges that affect women's participation. Most times women's participation and presence is sexualized, and the men continue to exercise their power and disempower women. The other key issue was the underrepresentation of diverse interests of women. They were concerned of less participation of women with disabilities, women from minority groups and indigenous communities, women of different class, racial ethnicities, and sexualities, and thus impacting and deterring the effective contribution to women in the regional and international civic engagement spaces. And we continue to notice that the space continues to shrink at different levels in different ways, not just in the presence, but also in the way that the space allows women to engage and articulate themselves. And finally, the key emerging issue around shrinking space is in line with the COVID-19 pandemic and the dynamics that emerged. The findings allude to the fact that the limitation of women and access to technology has continued to manifest the shrinking space. Women have inadequate infrastructure, they don't have laptops, they don't have smartphones. When they get to platforms like Zoom, they don't have the technical ability of utilizing the different platforms. They can be in the waiting room for a while, and all this limits women's effective participation. As other processes are running fast, they are still grappling with the technology and how to use it, and that is limiting their voice and engagement within the spaces. So these are some of the key highlights from the research. Overall, yes, that the spaces are there. Women have made an attempt and effort to participate. They have contributed, but there are still key issues that continue to limit and for the space to continue to shrink. But also on the fact that we operate in a context of conflict, the environment also within which women peace activists work in is also another deterrent and enhance the shrinking civic space. So you'll be able to engage at the AU, at the national level, and at the international level. So these are the key highlights from the research. Thank you for being part of this discussion. and we look forward to a vibrant dialogue this afternoon. So thank you very much. And on this note, I'd like to invite Ms. Saleh Bumweng, founder and CEO of Common Action for Gender and Development from Cameroon. Sally, you're welcome. We'll be sharing the Women Peace Builders experiences and recommendations for ensuring women's meaningful participation in peace and security from your perspective. Welcome, Sally.
Good afternoon. Good morning, depending on where we are. I'm from Cameroon. Are you getting me, please?
Yes, can hear you.
Cameroonian. As women peace builders from the perspective of Cameroon, where there is an ongoing conflict, it is the most challenging thing that you can think of. There are instruments, like the research says, that gives us right to be part of every conversation. There are global spaces, regional spaces where we have to access to solve our issues, but it is not the reality. We might have the UN Security Council reality to women. A grand national dialogue, for instance, in our country, where they were discussing the crisis in the conflict-affected regions. Women who had been advocating for an inclusive and sincere dialogue for all characters involved were not invited to this dialogue space. These and many more. Women in different grassroots communities working tirelessly to see end, but when there is a discussion on peace issues, these women are not invited. So it is our wish as local grassroots women peace builders that the following issues should be considered by the AU to give the adequate support that women movements need as they go around to build peace in their communities. We call upon the AU to be able to grant local grassroots women peace builders and other women peace builders, they conceptualize the participation and representation of women in these spaces. We should not be brought into the spaces as a case of favor, like our Grand National Dialogue, where we had over 600 participants and less than 100 were women. So when we talk about they should conceptualize this representation and participation, and it should not be considered as a favor given to women, we mean what we are saying, and we pray that the AU uses its connection to hold member states accountable in the implementation of these regional resolutions and UN Security Council resolutions to make sure that women are part and parcel of the peace process in terms of representation as in quality, because we are diverse in nature as women, and in representation. The AU has to take care that women are able to be there at all levels of decision making. With the coming of COVID, we have realized that the world is highly digitalized, and the grassroots woman has to be supported and given all it takes to be able to be part of the platform. Like if you look at me where I am seated and talking to this panel this morning, you will realize I'm panting and sweating because in the community of Bakingili, to get a solid connection to be able to connect. So we're using inclusive and interactive online platforms. These platforms it will grant access to many more women, but these platforms should be supported and subsidized in a way that grassroots women can have even a call center where they go sit together and be able to talk. So this is to engage our governments, open these platforms online so that more women can participate in the conversation and in decision making. They should be able to map out capacities of women's rights organizations and individual activists by using the gender arm of the AU, the Women, Peace and Security arm, to be able to map out these capacities so that they facilitate, create chapters and partners across the region. For instance, I sometimes feel that women in Cameroon They have been crying for peace and working for peace without adequate support. So the AU needs to create some of these platforms, engage in subsidizing some of these platforms so that women can have a collective voice together. This can be done by intentionally nurturing women's peace movements. It should be an intentional act in every budget, in every discussion, in every decision making. That intention to nurture women's peace movement should be paramount so that these movements should be able to come. The way we look at the issue of women, peace, and security, it is more like a lip service, because every space wherein we sit, we discuss issues of women, peace, and security, or it is important for women to be there, but this access is not there. So we call on the AU to be intentional in the provision of that. We eat awareness creating. When we have this women's movement, like what we have in Cameroon, we have different women's movement. Awareness should be created at that level of the region, African Union, so that these women should know existing women's network that are existing, like the African Women Leadership Network, even GIMA, where we are together under. These are networks that these grassroots women need to know about it so that they can move together and work in a collective agenda, because together we are stronger. And then we need the support of the AU to lobby male actors who constitute the leadership of the AU to be able to accept and ascribe to pushing the WPS agenda. This male leadership in the global and regional place should make it a point of duty to look at gender equal participation in decision making, because this is what is going to take us a step ahead. This is what is going to make the big difference that we are looking forward to have. Now, we are also looking at we are not expecting the AU to reinvent the wheel. No, we are calling on the AU to make use of existing networks, these regional networks. Like Gender is My Agenda is a powerful network that has to be used. Like I am able to use my voice today to talk about the challenges of women in Cameroon as an example, because I was able to get into contact with GIMA and the other organization, Women Peace Center in Uganda, to be able to be on this space. So the UN should be intentional about this issue so that best practices are shared, support is rendered, expertise is shared among women, function in these spaces in such a way that we bring development and peace in our communities. Then there should not be this over assumption about who women are, what they want, and how they want it. The AU should be very careful with grouping women as a group. We are not a group. We are women, but we are women and we are diverse in nature. We have young women. We have women who have disabilities. We have women who come from minorities. We have women, we have different language issues. So we should, at the level of the AU, be able to factor all of these issues in our intervention so that there will be a holistic reality of the women, peace, and security agenda in the lives of women at the level of their countries, at the level of the region, and globally. I think that the AU, as the motherboard of the region, owes the women peace builders of Africa the duty of making decisions that grants them access to decision-making spaces by looking into all of what I have proposed above. We know that together we can build and make the women peace and security agenda a success, because when women are involved, they do not come in just like victims, they come in as survivors and contributors of the great data that, when taken into consideration, we are going to build sustainable peace. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Sally, for flagging out those key issues. Indeed, we need to conceptualize what we mean by women's participation so that we have tangible indicators for this variable. Thank you very much. I would like to invite now Ms. Jolie Kamuntu, the President of the Association of Women Media Association in South Kivu. Jolie, you're welcome. Jolie, you're welcome.
Merci. Merci beaucoup. J'utilise l'audio parce que la vidéo ne marche pas ici en RDC bien. Alors, je veux parler de les causes qui font à ce que la participation des femmes est bloquée dans ces espaces-là. Alors, chez nous aujourd'hui, il y a mis les causes, le plus fondamental, le manque de volonté politique. D'abord, dans la mise en œuvre des instruments juridiques internationaux et les lois nationales qui protègent la femme. Parce qu'aujourd'hui, on sent quand même qu'il y a une évolution par rapport à ces instruments. Il y a des textes qui protègent les femmes, il y a les instruments comme la 1325 qui protègent les femmes, mais le problème, c'est la mise en œuvre de ces instruments là-bas. En RDC, par exemple, notre constitution donne 30% des femmes pour la représentativité dans les discussions de paix, dans la participation politique, dans le développement communautaire, mais je vous dis qu'on est à 17%. Et c'est un effort de plusieurs années pour arriver à ces 17%. La résolution 1325 nous parlait de 20% minimum, mais aujourd'hui, il y a des femmes qui n'en savent même pas les contenus. Nous venons de réaliser une étude avec WIPS sur la mise en œuvre de la résolution 1325, mais c'est catastrophique. Il y en a qui n'ont jamais entendu parler de cette résolution. Alors, le deuxième facteur qui bloque cette participation des femmes, ce sont des coutumes rétrogrades et des constructions sociétaires. Parce que on a tendance à penser que la femme, il y a des espaces où la femme ne peut pas arriver. La femme ne peut pas parler dans une communauté où les hommes sont en train de parler. La femme, sa place, c'est à la cuisine, elle doit faire des enfants. La femme, c'est une marchandise, elle attend là-bas d'être mariée. La femme, c'est un bien, une fourre-tout qui doit travailler pour le ménage. Et ceux qui ont évolué, ils vous disent la femme c'est une fleur pour embellir nos réunions de politique, pour embellir nos réunions de discussion de paix. On l'amène là pour qu'on voit qu'on a respecté juste les gens. Mais en termes de contribution, en termes de qualité, rien n'est fait. Et ce sont des constructions sociétaires aujourd'hui. On veut montrer à la face du monde que la femme ne sert qu'à faire les histoires que j'ai citées là-bas. Troisième facteur, c'est il y a une nouvelle forme des violences à l'égard des femmes aujourd'hui. Ce sont des violences financières et économiques. Quand on sait qu'il y a de ces espaces-là qui existent, que les femmes aient des moyens pour y accéder, il y a des opportunités-là qui existent, que les femmes aient des moyens pour y accéder, on bloque l'économie de la femme. Il y en a qui bloquent, qui limitent travailler. Il y en a pas. Les femmes, il y a des opportunités, il y a une réunion de la femme quelque part, mais déjà, si le téléphone, c'est l'homme qui bloque, c'est l'homme qui gère encore le téléphone. Est-ce que vous pensez que la femme aura accès à toutes ces opportunités? C'est une nouvelle forme de violence qui est en train de renaître et qui est faite sciemment pour continuer à bloquer encore les femmes dans ce gouffre-là. Alors, nous avons pensé aujourd'hui que on devait identifier les vrais besoins des femmes carrément. Parce qu'on sent qu'on manipule. La femme, elle est toujours considérée comme une mineure qu'on doit gérer, dont on doit prendre soin. Pourtant, c'est non. On devait identifier les vrais besoins des femmes. C'est l'une des recommandations que nous avons formulées dans l'étude. Que l'Union africaine fasse ses études approfondies, qui descendent jusqu'à la base à travers nous, les organisations qui sommes là, pour identifier les vrais besoins de femmes en matière de sécurité, en matière de participation politique, en matière de développement communautaire de ces continents d'Afrique. Mais nous avons aussi pensé comme recommandation que l'Union africaine devait renforcer cette commission-là des femmes. La commission devait être bien renforcée et avoir même des démembrements au sein des pays, au sein des provinces, au sein des régions, pour essayer de documenter, pour essayer de relayer les histoires positives, les success stories et les problèmes qui persistent encore autour de ces espaces par rapport à la femme, parce qu'il y a un blocage. Je vous dis, il y a un blocage, c'est comme un mur qu'on a construit pour essayer de bloquer la femme. Mais aujourd'hui, on pense aussi que les synergies entre femmes, c'est des choses à encourager, les amis. On se rend compte que l'Afrique, apparemment, on a tous les mêmes problèmes. Et je pense que ça constitue une force qu'on devait exploiter, ces synergies-là, où on partage les expériences, où les femmes s'entraident mutuellement en disant, chez nous, on a réussi quand même, mais voilà les stratégies que nous avons utilisées pour essayer de réussir. C'est des choses qui peuvent aider. Mais aussi l'Union africaine devait cesser d'amadouer les pays, devait cesser de mater les présidents, parce qu'on sent qu'apparemment, c'est un club d'amis. Ils ne se reprochent rien, ils ne se tournent pas dessus et ils ont juste le plaisir de voir un État ratifier un texte, un État signer un texte, mais il n'y a pas un suivi vraiment. On ne sent pas ce suivi de l'Union africaine qui font sur nos États pour essayer, ne fût-ce que de leur faire une pression morale, parce qu'on sait que la pression physique, la pression juridique n'existe pas à l'Union africaine, mais qu'on fasse ne fût-ce qu'une pression morale sur nos États en leur disant, si vous savez que vous n'allez pas mettre en œuvre les textes que vous venez ratifier ou que vous venez signer ici, ne signez pas. Ne le faites pas, parce qu'il y en a qui le font pour le plaisir de le faire. Et au finish, quand ils rentrent sur le terrain, il n'y a rien qui est fait. Nous venons de réaliser une enquête pendant la période de COVID-19 pour voir quelles sont les violences à l'égard des femmes qui ont été commises pendant cette période. Mais c'est catastrophique. C'est catastrophique. Sur 6 000 personnes enquêtées, on sent que les premières violences, ce sont les violences physiques qui bloquent l'accès des femmes aux opportunités de travail, aux opportunités politiques, aux opportunités socio-économiques. Et les premiers qui sont en train de violer, ce sont les policiers, les services de sécurité, qui sont là pourtant pour protéger les femmes. Vous imaginez? Vous imaginez. On a noté aussi que pendant cette période, les partis politiques, les institutions officielles, ils ont bloqué l'émergence des femmes parce qu'on avançait le fait qu'il y a la maladie, les femmes devaient rester à la maison, mais on accordait aux hommes l'opportunité d'aller travailler, de gagner quelque chose, même en cette période de coronavirus. Et vous voyez que plus les années évoluent, plus le contexte change, plus c'est la femme qui est toujours victime de ce blocage-là. Elle ne peut pas accéder à des espaces où il y a des opportunités pour parler de la paix, pour donner sa contribution. Et le mal est que quand ça barde, quand il y a des problèmes liés au manque de paix et de sécurité, ce sont les femmes qui sont les principales victimes. Est-ce que vous vous imaginez? Vous pensez qu'on devrait continuer comme ça à subir les choses dont on ne participe pas à la planification? Quand il parle de questions de paix, c'est toujours des discussions infinies quand il faut associer la femme. Quand on parle de problèmes de sécurité, il faut toujours réfléchir 2 fois pour associer la femme. Mais quand il y a maintenant des menaces de sécurité, quand il y a les conséquences, ce sont les femmes qui en pâtissent, ce sont les femmes qui subissent. Et donc, je pense aujourd'hui que l'heure est arrivée où les femmes africaines devaient cesser de pleurer sur leur sort, devaient se tenir main dans la main, faire pression à ces dirigeants-là égoïstes, à ces dirigeants margoulins qui veulent bloquer l'émergence des femmes dans des espaces de discussion qui aujourd'hui restent une opportunité. Parce que je vous dis, l'espoir est permis que entre les femmes, il y a quand même quelque chose qui peut changer cette Afrique. Et tant que nos dirigeants ne prendront pas ça au sérieux, je pense qu'on va continuer à croupir dans la misère, à croupir dans l'insécurité, à croupir dans des guerres qui n'en finissent jamais et le manque de paix. Voilà ce que j'avais à partager avec vous, mesdames et messieurs. Je vous remercie.
Thank you very much, Jolie. Thank you very much, Jolie, for your reflections on some of the blockages and issues that are making that the civic space continue to shrink within your context. but also emphasizing the importance of strengthening the women commissions to ensure that influence and impact for gender equality and women's participation in peace and security is visible. Thank you very much, Julie. We'll now move to the next panelist, Mr. Mubarak Mabuya, who will be sharing opportunities that we can take advantage of to engage in regional policymaking spaces on peace and security. Mr. Mubarak Mabuya is Program Manager, Gender Affairs within the Intergovernmental Authority on Development, IGAD. Mubaraka, you're welcome. Over to you.
Miss Sally, Miss Juliet?
Yes.
Can you please move on to the next speaker, Mr. Mubarak? Okay.
Thank you very much. We'll move to the next speaker, Ambassador Catherine Mogaka, Special Policy Advisor, Office of the Special Envoy on Women, Peace and Security at the African Union Commission, who will be reflecting on opportunities of strengthening participation in regional policymaking spaces on peace and security. You're welcome, Ambassador Mogaka. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Madam Were. As you're all aware, this year, 2020, is the 20th anniversary of UN Security Council Resolution 1325, which is a landmark resolution on inclusion of women in peace processes, as well as the protection of women in conflict situations. It is also the 25th anniversary of the Beijing Platform of Action. And also this year the AU theme was silencing the guns. But the year 2020 has also been a year like no other in recent memory. COVID-19, which is an insidious and highly contagious disease, has resulted in an unprecedented shutdown of global activities in all sectors: social, economic, trade, education, agriculture, and many more. The effects of the pandemic have impacted women and girls with a global manifestation of increased gender-based violence, and has exacerbated poverty that has more negatively affected women and girls. The unprecedented crisis occasioned by the COVID-19 pandemic is not only a threat to our already social, economic, political, and security gains on our continent, including, among others,
Juliet, can you hear Ambassador Catherine? Can you hear?
The voice is a bit low.
Okay, but you can still hear her?
Now I can't hear her.
Ambassador Catherine, we can't hear you properly. Can you please be closer to your mic?
Hello?
Hello, we've lost her now.
I think she's trying to reconnect with us, so maybe let's just give her a few minutes so her audio is on as well.
Hello?
We've lost her. Hello, Ambassador, are you still with us?
She's rejoining. Maybe let's give her a minute to connect her audio.
Mm.
Hello. Hear me now?
Proceed and we see how it works.
Of infection.
Yes, Ambassador.
In peace. Hello.
Hello.
We lost Ambassador Katrine, so maybe.
Maybe in the meantime, we invite other speakers. I have communication from Annie, Lady Annie, Madame Annie Kenda from the Ministry of Gender, Democratic Republic of Congo. Madame Annie, this is your time to contribute to the discussion.
We also have another hands up from the participants in Mustafa. So we have allowed him to speak. He can unmute and speak.
Okay, I'll move to the next one is Saida Kahum from the Global Network of Agro-Pastoral Nomads.
Yes, I am there. I am there.
Pardon.
Who is you're here?
Je suis là, je peux parler. Madame Annie Kenda.
Okay, let's have Annie Kenda first, then we'll have.
Okay.
Madame Annie.
Yes, j'ai suivi tout le monde. Je suis contente. Merci pour m'avoir accordé cette possibilité de parler avec vous. Sur audio, je ne sais pas utiliser maintenant la vidéo. C'est un problème très important de pouvoir étendre la question au niveau régional et voir comment les femmes de la base doivent travailler pour être renforcées, être reconnues, être...
Madam Annie, please unmute and you can also open up.
Can I continue?
Please.
Yeah, please continue.
Yes. What I say is, c'est mieux de reconnaître, de comprendre pourquoi la domination de la masculinité sur la femme. Il faut avoir des études qui permettent à ce qu'on comprenne pourquoi l'homme n'arrive pas à se reconnaître que le fait d'être trop dominant et de s'imposer et de menacer la promotion des droits de la femme est un obstacle. Il faut qu'on puisse connaître ça, connaître en profondeur. Et aussi, il faut qu'on puisse permettre à ce que l'homme soit désarmé de tout ce qu'il utilise comme arme. il y a plusieurs armes. On peut dire qu'il y a seulement l'arme à feu, mais non seulement l'arme à feu. Les propos verbaux au niveau des stéréotypes, quand on parle mal, on étouffe la femme, on ne sait pas reconnaître que la femme a les mêmes droits, il est né de la même manière que l'homme est né, et il est né des relations sexuelles entre l'homme et la femme, et on est l'homme et on est la femme, et que la femme sort du monde, elle est née, elle sort du ventre de la femme, comme l'homme sort aussi du ventre de la femme, parce qu'il n'y a pas de différence. Et si cette culture-là entre dans les pensées de l'homme et dans les pensées de la femme, et ils se mettent tous dans le même diapason pour se comprendre et reconnaître que nous sommes tous des êtres humains créés par Dieu et qui ont les mêmes capacités, qui ont le même corps, la même chair, les mêmes pensées. Je pense que cette question ne pourra plus se poser de domination ou de supériorité de l'un et de l'autre. Et aussi, il faut éduquer pour briser le silence des violences multiples. Et puis aussi éduquer à la tolérance. Éduquer aussi à arrêter de dire aux garçons, il ne faut pas pleurer comme un garçon et comme une fille. On étouffe le garçon et on humilie la femme, la fille. D'où il y a une éducation sur mesure qui se fait par les parents, entre l'homme et la femme. Et cette éducation-là ne facilite pas l'accessibilité même de l'homme facilement, même de la femme. C'est comme si l'homme et la femme sont en train de se mesurer dans la société pour dire qui est fort, qui est faible et comment on doit vivre. Et de cette manière, il n'y a pas d'équité, il n'y a pas l'égalité et les obstacles vont persister et ce qui ne pourra pas permettre à ce que le leadership de l'un et de l'autre puisse être accepté. C'est pourquoi il faut qu'on puisse éduquer dès le bas âge au contrôle de nos pensées, contrôle de nos idées, contrôle de nos propos, contrôle de comment nous agissons dans notre travail. Est-ce que nous acceptons les autres, nous les refusons et comment nous pouvons faire pour éviter tout ce qu'il y a comme obstacle. C'est de cette manière-là qu'on peut aider à ce que le leadership de la femme puisse émerger. Et aussi, l'homme a besoin du soutien de la femme pour que son leadership soit affirmé. Tant qu'il n'accepte pas le leadership de la femme, il ne sera pas à mesure d'évoluer correctement. Voilà ce que je pouvais donner comme avis par rapport à notre sujet. Et je vous remercie sincèrement pour m'avoir donné cette occasion, Madame la Présidente de GIMAC, tout le bureau et le secrétariat, surtout Madame Job. Et j'en profite pour vous présenter mes meilleurs vœux de Noël et de bonne année, une bonne fin d'année et une bonne nouvelle 2021 pour que 2021 soit vraiment une année où les femmes vivent réellement la paix et la sécurité. Je vous remercie.
Thank you very much, Madame Annie, for your participation and for your emphasis of us looking at a more sustainable and forward-looking strategy of investing heavily in the girl child if we are able to curb the challenges that we are facing in the participation of women, peace and security, and in enabling, opening up the spaces for women activists.
Yes.
We'll now invite Ambassador Catherine. Ambassador Catherine, now the floor is yours.
Merci beaucoup.
Thank you. Let me start again from the beginning. As you're all aware, the year 2020 was a great year for us because it's the 20th anniversary of UN Security Council Resolution 1325. It is also the 25th anniversary of the Beijing Platform of Action. And the AU theme for the year is silencing the guns. Yet the year 2020 has been like no other year in recent memory. COVID-19, an insidious and highly contagious disease that has resulted in an unprecedented shutdown of global activities in all sectors, social, economic, trade, education, agriculture, and many more, has also affected and impacted women and girls, where we've seen the global manifestation of increased gender-based violence and the exacerbation of poverty that has more negative effects on women and girls. This unprecedented crisis, occasioned by the COVID-19 pandemic, is not only a threat to our already overstretched healthcare infrastructure, it threatens to roll back hard-earned economic, social, economic, political, and security gains on our continent, including, amongst others, the advancement in women's empowerment, women's health, and women's rights in Africa. The lockdowns, closures, and curfews that were necessitated globally to reduce the exposure and thereby the exponential rise of the infections and deaths has led to an unintended exposure consequence that may see the erosion of our hard-won progress in peace, security, and development, economic transformation, and gender equality and women empowerment. As you're all aware, very many people have lost jobs, and women who are mostly in the informal economy have also lost their modes of income. This, coupled with ongoing conflicts and crises in Africa, threaten to erode the gains made in women empowerment and gender equality. Yet African women have continued to demonstrate their resilience in their strive for peace through peacemaking processes, as demonstrated by the women of Mali, who earlier this year played a critical and active role in the resolution of the crisis in their country. It is therefore imperative that the structural drivers of conflict, such as poverty and the exclusion of women in decision-making, as well as emerging threats to peace and security, such as terrorism and human trafficking, be addressed. Earlier this year, the Ministers for Gender and the Ministers for Foreign Affairs, all of them female, met virtually to discuss ways of enhancing women leadership in the face of COVID-19. Key issues that were agreed upon were, amongst others, ensuring the economic empowerment of women, access to health and education, including digital education, so that women and girls are not left behind. Ongoing policies that would support these include, inter alia, the fact that 30 countries within our continent have already developed national action plans under the UN Security Council Resolution 1325. In addition, 3 RECs have developed regional action plans. In the prevention pillar, the countries that have developed NAPs have submitted women, peace, and security reports in the security sector that they have made laws, they have made policies and strategies in integrating women, peace, and security in their security systems. The countries that reported thus include Togo, Niger, Burkina Faso, Cote d'Ivoire, Sierra Leone, DRC, Cameroon, Mozambique, Kenya, Uganda, Rwanda, and Burundi. The adoption in the sidelines of the February summit, the AU February summit, by our heads of states and government, of the declaration of a new African Women's Decade from 2020 to 2030 is also important, as it ushers in financial inclusion of African women. And also at the same time, the African Women Leadership Fund was launched, which is important as this will ensure that women entrepreneurs in Africa get their funding. The ongoing reporting by the African countries on developments in their country under the Solemn Declaration of Gender Equality in Africa, in line with Agenda 2063, as well as the ratification and domestication of the Maputo Protocol by many countries, is also very important. Also important, or equally important, is the newly introduced scorecard index which will assist in this reporting. As you're all aware, the Office of the Special Envoy has developed the Continental Results Framework with indicators that helps member states to report under UN Security Council Resolution 1325. The African continent has done relatively well on the policy level on the women, peace and security agenda, with the development of national action plans under Resolution 1325. However, implementation has been wanting. Women still face many barriers, including restrictions related to access to basic services, as well as legal and regulatory constraints with regards to economic opportunities. In addition, women lack adequate resources to effectively support their programs and projects. Hence, the importance of the call for a protocol on women in trade during the recent African Continental Free Trade Area Summit. This is timely as it recognizes the importance of building capacity of women in order to trade better. It will also open up opportunities for African women, thereby leading to transformational change. The African Continental Free Trade Summit was held back-to-back with the Silencing the Gun Summit. And this was deliberate as given the fact that enhanced trade and economic empowerment of our people contributes to the reduction of conflicts. Together, the two summits made important decisions regarding women. Both of them regarding decisions on women and youth. Other important platforms include the solidarity missions that the Special Envoy carries out sometimes jointly with the UN to countries in crisis. The recent ones being solidarity missions to Ethiopia, Eritrea, the Sudan, and South Sudan. Femwise and Aulin continue to be platforms through which women mediators and peace builders and peacemakers receive capacity building and training. A case in point is Aulin Mali played an important and critical role in bringing the women of Mali together and assisting in their strategizing on a roadmap for peace. The Office of the Special Envoy and UN Women who were requested by Aulin Mali were instrumental in the formulation of this roadmap. Yesterday marks the conclusion of a successful two-day Aulin Intergenerational Retreat hosted by Her Excellency Ellen Johnson Sirleaf, former President of the Republic of Liberia and Aulin patron, and His Excellency Uhuru Kenyatta, President of the Republic of Kenya and the Global Youth Champion. This is the second retreat held under this nature, albeit this year's was held virtually due to the pandemic. The first retreat was held in Nairobi last year. The retreat seeks to, inter alia, continue strengthening African women's leadership across generations in a principled and value-driven agenda to advance the deliveries of commitments made to ensure Africa's transformation, build sustainable, innovative, and cross-generational mentorship, and also propel emerging current women to lead with a network of support. The mentorship program, which had been recommended last year and commenced this year, was very successful. And there was a lot of interaction between the senior women and the junior women, and there was cross-cultural, cross-generational learning going on. It wasn't just the senior women who had all the knowledge. They also learned a lot from the younger ladies. Such activities that bring together different generations of women leaders of different sectors augurs well for the sustainable peace and development of our continent. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ambassador Catherine, for sharing the reflections and progress made, and especially the influence of the Office of the Special Envoy in providing platforms and spaces for women to participate, and the gains that have been achieved. We also acknowledge the fact that there are still challenges, but there's still more work, and we push this back to the Office of the Special Envoy to ensure that she continues using her space, her influence, to ensure that women's participation is visible and recognized. Thank you very much. We'll now invite Saida from Mauritania. Now it's your time for you to share your reflections. Saida, are you still with us?
Please unmute and proceed.
Allô? Oui, je suis là. Est-ce que vous m'entendez? Allô?
Yes, please.
Oui.
Allô, bonjour.
Bonjour, Saida. Please proceed. We can
Oui,
hear
bonjour. Je vous passe mon bonjour de la Mauritanie et du réseau mondial de la femme nomade agropastorale. Et nous, on est là parce que nous sommes des femmes nomades et malheureusement, nous ne sommes pas accès à ces fonds, ni ces fonds, ni ces financements, malheureusement. On a un grand problème avec tous les bailleurs de fonds parce que nous sommes... On ne peut pas accéder à ces financements parce que nous sommes des femmes nomades. Malgré qu'on travaille sur l'agro-pastoral, et nous sommes des femmes qui travaillent avec des produits locaux et aussi pour la valorisation des produits locaux. On remercie la secrétaire générale adjointe Amina et Madame Diop. Et Madame Diop, et bien sûr, notre Diaba aussi, qui nous ont invités à Addis Ababa pour lancer notre réseau mondial agropastoral, qu'on a fait des plaidoyers pour le secrétaire général des Nations Unies et tout le monde. Et on remercie la présidente d'Addis Ababa qu'on a fait présidente d'honneur pour la femme mondiale agropastorale. On demande aussi à Jimag et Famouez de donner à la femme nomade sa place, qu'elle a fait un grand effort pour attendre son mot au secrétaire général des Nations Unies, à son adjointe, Madame Amina, et de dire qu'en Mauritanie,
Thank you very much, Saïda.
il y a des femmes qui ne sont pas malheureusement accès à l'éducation, mais elles ne sont pas bêtes. Elles sont là, elles travaillent, elles montrent leur capacité de donner et de travailler beaucoup sur des projets locaux. Ils font beaucoup de choses sur l'agro-pastoral. Et on est membre de la plateforme G5.
So thank you very much, Saida, for sharing your reflections and concerns of the different women that require support to be able to participate in different peace and security platforms. Your issues have been noted. And added to the recommendations. Thank you very much. We'll now move on with our agenda. And this is the time for discussions by other participants. Please, if you have a contribution, raise up your hand. This is the time for now to discuss. Yes, Mabobori, the floor is yours. Madame Mabobori, you're welcome. Please unmute.
Est-ce que ça va maintenant?
Yes.
Ça va maintenant?
Yes.
Okay. I'm sorry, I didn't know. I couldn't locate the unmute or mute signal, so I didn't know if you are hearing me or not. I hope the camera is not on because I'm not good on the camera. I was raising my problem about what I have on my screen, but I am very interested in hearing about women nomad, les femmes nomades, because this is something we don't talk about often. So maybe I think it can be an emerging issue, talking about those women who are living a particular situation of women nomad. And thank you for the lady from Mauritania who raised the issue. Thank you, I've finished.
Yes, Catherine. Thank you very much, Catherine. We invite other participants to join the discussion. Participants, the floor is open for contribution to the discussion. Combo, you're welcome. Combo, you're welcome to contribute to the discussion. Yes, Combo. Yes, Combo, please. This is your time.
We have Marie-Louise Barry-Jaco from Burundi.
Hello. Marie-Louise.
Yes.
Yes, Marie-Louise, please.
Thank you very much, Juliet. Thank you for this very interesting session. And thank you for all the work you have done to prepare this meeting. I'm very glad by the way I saw the picture, the full picture of the women participation, the women leadership, and women and girls working together for change and transformation. There is something I really, you touched all the aspects, the very important aspects of leadership, participation, intergenerational dialogue, women in mediation, women in economic empowerment. Something I thought we need also to see how we can put more energy on. It is about quality education of our girls, because this is a key, this is a must, quality education of our girls, and then also putting more emphasis on technologies of information and communication, because when I look at the way things are happening, it's like there is one big number of women who are not really engaged in ICT, and it is very important. So I don't know how we are going to do it. And this is, I see it, for instance, when we participate to meetings, going to follow, we will not be able to manage the situation until we master the ICT. It has become a must, and we don't have it. There are many women who don't participate to these meetings, don't have access, or they don't have the equipment. So this is an issue I think we need to consider. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Marie-Louise, for your contribution to the debate and for raising those pertinent issues. All our colleagues and partners, please, it's time for us to join the discussion. So thank you very much. Seems that we are all content with the reflection we had this afternoon. The reflections, it is clear that the findings of the research are tested in our contexts, and that we leave it. Yes, the shrinking space is visible in communities in our contexts. We see it, feel it, especially when it comes at political times of elections and transitions of government powers in our countries. Women peace leaders continue to be challenged. We have also recognized that, yes, we have spaces within our countries, within the African Union, and the AU that enable us to participate and contribute to the peace and security. And we have also acknowledged that the Office of the Special Envoy is that platform that has provided us the avenue to ensure that issues of women continue to be pushed and to be part of the legislation of national board. Have seen and heard that contributed to improve reporting by government around the different pillars of 1355. There's still lots more that needs to be done to enhance the participation of women, ensure that the spaces are secure, that women's contribution is accurate, and be put and imprinted in the outcome documents that are developed as outcome cases. But also that the issues of financing are critical, enable women's participation, presentation in these spaces. The issues of technology, access to technology, and ability to utilize it is also critical. And the issue of ensuring that the numbers of women and what we mean by participation of women needs to be made more practical than being able to have indicators that will ensure that we are visible and our space is protected. But also, it's important that the environment that we work in is secure, that conflicts that are within our continent are dealt with, and that the campaign of silencing guns is actualized, because it is true that the guns are silent, that the environment that we are in will allow leaders to play proactive role, and that the governance structures also need to be respectful and provide women with resources and financing required to drive the women's agenda. I would like to thank you so much for joining this discussion. And before we sign out, we'd like to invite Omol Kyrie, who wants to share her final recommendation. Yes, Kyrie, you wanted to share your final recommendation?
Allô? Allô, oui? Merci beaucoup. Je veux vous dire qu'on a fait beaucoup de sensibilisation et de formation aussi sur la femme et le numérique pour la femme nomade, pour vendre ses produits locaux. On les a achetés des téléphones et on a fait beaucoup de formations et beaucoup de sensibilisation sur le droit de l'homme, le droit de la femme, la cohésion sociale, l'extrémisme violent. Et on a des rapports sur ça et on veut bien partager avec vous. Et on veut aussi des WhatsApp, une coordination de WhatsApp pour qu'on se forme et on fait de la formation sur le numérique. Et vous savez, la femme nomade, elle est très intelligente, mais malheureusement, elle lui manque beaucoup d'éducation, malheureusement, mais elle a une vision très claire, elle n'est pas bête, mais elle lui manque beaucoup de choses. Mais malheureusement, on n'est pas accès au financement, ni par l'État, malheureusement, ni par les bailleurs de fonds. Aminata, Binta et Khadija, la secrétaire générale, nous a parlé des fonds. Et malheureusement, on veut, où est-ce qu'ils sont ces fonds? Et qu'est-ce que la femme nomade peut, vous pouvez lui donner? Et on veut bien que toutes les femmes nous aident et surtout nous aident pour la formation des sœurs nomades. Il ne faut pas qu'elles les laissent. On a fait le réseau mondial qui a été, on a demandé la présidente d'Addis Ababa d'être notre présidente d'honneur. Et on a fait un grand plaidoyer là-bas à Addis Ababa. Mais malheureusement, personne comme femme nous a aidés jusqu'à présent. Et on veut que vous nous aidez, des femmes nomades, partout. Et je vous remercie. Et surtout la formation en numérique. Merci beaucoup. Je remercie toutes les femmes et je leur souhaite une bonne année et une année de succès, de formation et de la femme nomade, rurale, tout. Je vous remercie. Bonne année.
Thank you very much for your contribution. The issue of financing is an African level concern. So we need to continue harnessing our voices, pushing our governments to ensure that we have gender budgets, but also work with other partners to enhance our participation. It's a key recommendation that will be added to the report and the outcomes of this discussion. Finally, I would like to invite Noella to give your contribution on behalf of the other young women.
Thank you so much, Madam Juliet. Thank you for your presentation. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you now.
Okay, thank you so much, Madam Juliet, for your presentation and the preparation of this gathering. I know you've really invested a lot. And for me, I'll like to talk on behalf of young refugee women who are trying to ensure that we push the agenda of women. And also in the work that we are doing, we are trying to reflect really that, to reflect and to ensure that we are incorporating the women peace agenda and it's being really understood within our community. However, we feel like we alone, we can't do it. We keep on emphasizing that our representation be really effective in all decision-making processes. Just the way one among the panelists has explained it, we are still lacking access to funding. And this is actually building a barrier on whatever work that we are doing. So we kindly recommend that as you are trying to push the agenda, make sure that we also fit when it's come to accessing funding, when it's coming to the decision-making processes, such that our views are also represented and fit in the decision. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Noella. Elizabeth? Elizabeth, are you here? Thank you very much, Noella. Thank you to all participants who have joined this dialogue. We acknowledge your expertise, your contribution, and your participation. These are some of the platforms that provide us space to engage and be able to come up with one voice key recommendations to continue pushing the women, peace, and security agenda in Africa and the world at large. We thank you very much. We will be sharing the report early next year to all participants, and we will be able to utilize it to continue pushing the opening up and broadening civic space for women's rights activists. Thank you very much. There's a request for all of us to turn on our cameras. Please turn on your cameras. We are going to take a group photograph as a record of our participation in this dialogue. Let's put on our cameras, please. Please put on your cameras. Technical team, please give us instructions.
All right, very good smiles. We just have a few to go. Annie, Sandra, Karen on page 1. Please, if you're in a position to, let's all smile to the camera in 3, 2, and 1. Very good. Let's at least do something with our hands. Let's show it's not our pictures, but it's us and happy, you know. Thank you. Let's do page 2. Ah, beautiful hands there we have. Thank you. I think we've captured very nice pictures.